Alright guys, so I got the KTM 500 out here and I tested it a little bit here in the 717 trail system, and just an overall review, you know, it's definitely a great bike, and I believe this is stock gearing when I counted the sprockets and then when I compared them to the website. But in all honesty, like the 500, you can still somewhat feel the weight. Definitely a workout. Yeah, most of this time I'm in second gear, and I still find myself changing myself through the gears, which I wasn't expecting that on the 500. So a lot of these steeper climbs, you can kind of hear in the end just like that kind of that low stuttering kind of, but I was still going at a decent pace in my opinion. Keep in mind that's of course uphill, second gear. I got a big tank on it, but I've ridden this thing with a low, you know, not much fuel in it, so the weight on it is not too bad once the fuel kind of depletes. Right now it's pretty full, but one thing I noticed, I do have the Pirelli MT21 tires, and when that power comes on, that tire does start spinning pretty quickly. Now granted, it is dual sport tires and this is pea gravel. It's pretty slick.
Now obviously a KTM 300 XCW and a KTM 500 aren't really bikes you directly compare. They're built for different things and each one has its own strength. But I'm bringing up the 300 more as a reference point to prove a point. A lot of people, including myself, before buying the 500, expect a big 500 four-stroke to have this unbelievable smooth tractor-like power that you can just leave in fourth gear all day and it'll lug up just about anything. Now, don't get me wrong, the KTM 500 does have that nice low-end power. As comparison purpose, KTM 500 absolutely has more overall torque and low-end grunt. It wasn't exactly what I truly expected, if I was being honest with myself. As a reference point, my 2013 KTM 300 XCW, which I somewhat adventurized with 1341 gearing, hate to say, but it feels a little smoother transitioning from that very bottom end into that low to mid range. And I kid you not.
Now I'm gonna give some live demonstrations. It's not gonna be nothing fancy or anything like that. I'm just gonna show you exactly how this thing pulls, essentially. So to give you an idea, I'm gonna be on third gear. It takes off barely, like, oh, almost wanted to sell out there. So this is third gear here. The only reason you got to start feathering it here, if not it might want to die out pretty quickly. But this is third gear. I could actually cruise on third gear. I'm just more scared it's going to flame out.
Now the 500 definitely has that torque monster attitude. If you're just lazily cruising in third gear and a hill comes up and you slow down for a tight corner, the bike almost feels like it's saying, yeah, I've got this, but at the same time you can feel that engine load building and the bike kind of giving you that warning that says, hey, I still want a downshift. As long as you feed it some throttle though, for the most part, it will pull through and deliver. But you can definitely tell when you're approaching that lugging threshold is what I call it, and the motor is technically working harder to carry over. So this isn't really a comparison to say one bike is better than the other. It's more about resetting expectations for anyone thinking a 500 is just a giant tractor motor that never needs to be shifted. And to be honest, that is the only flaw that I see. Because really, the KTM 500, the magic really starts happening once you enter the mid-range. That's where this bike absolutely comes alive. In my opinion, in fast, open terrain, the KTM 500 is an absolute desert slayer. The faster you go, the happier it seems to be. The bike feels incredibly planted and stable at speed, and honestly, it's almost too easy to get carried away with this bike.
The only problem with the KTM 500, it's so easy, it's very easy to get carried away. Like it feels like you're not going fast. Like I'm constantly going 40 miles an hour, while on my two-stroke I'm going like 30 something. It feels faster on the two-stroke for some reason. In the KTM 500, I don't know. The best way I can describe it is I rode a liter bike, a 1,000 liter bike, and I was going 120 miles per hour, and I didn't even realize I was going that fast. On a CB500X, you can feel when you're going 500. You can feel when you're going around
50 miles an hour on a trail can feel like you're doing 100 on a highway with a liter bike as comparison purposes. Now, I don't know if you ever ridden, say, as an example, a Ninja 1000. You could be going 90 miles per hour on a 45 mile an hour zone, and you honestly don't even feel it. That's the best way I can describe the KTM 500. To me, this machine absolutely excels in fast open terrain. I call it pretty much what I said earlier, the Desert Slayer. Once you get out into open desert, fast two-track, or wide trails, the bike feels unbelievably planted and stable at speed. Another main reason that I bought this KTM 500 is the reliability. There's countless reviews and loads of people out in the forums and Reddit and stuff like that saying their KTM 500 reached and still running with no problem whatsoever 10, 15, some even say 20,000 miles. So I essentially bought this bike for reliability. Now, KTM reliability, that might be for a whole different discussion. But as of now, in simple terms, it has been very reliable, and some of the KTMs that I own have been very solid. Now, I also wanted to talk about the weight on the KTM 500 as well. Now, the wheelbase dry weight is 245 pounds. Pretty funny because on paper, it matches or is exactly like most dirt bikes, two strokes even. But for some odd reason, you can definitely feel it on the turns and some of the climbs as well. And what I mean by climbs is it definitely eats up tires. You can feel that drag in the rear and trying to carry over that weight and transfer that energy to keep moving forward. And I originally thought it was my dual sport tire, but I also have the KTM 300 XCW to 2013. It does weigh around 225 pounds dry, so it is a 20-pound difference. However, even with dual sport tires on that one, and these dual sport tires are not as aggressive as the KTM 500s, it feels a lot more planted climbing some of these hills. It's a little bit harder to break free on that traction on the rear tire, while the KTM 500, you can tell the weight does have to play a little bit of a role on it.
Brand new tires. You can kind of see the middle line is already disappearing. I kid you not, I only have about 4 rides on this thing.
The KTM 500 is an excellent machine. I bought it for a reason: reliability, comfort when I'm transitioning from dirt or trail out to pavement for a short while, and that 500 luggability. Despite its 2 warnings, it loves to chew up tires out in the off-road scene. And yeah, at the end of the day, the KTM 500 might give you that little low-end warning, but crack the throttle and it will definitely keep pulling. That's just part of the bike's personality. It's not a bike that completely lets you get lazy, but when you ride it the way it wants to be ridden, the 500 is an absolute weapon.